All right, a lot of news for the 49ers heading into this bye week, leaving the game against the Cleveland Browns. And at the top of this is a loss likely for the season of starting left guard Ben Bartch. Kyle Shanahan said foot sprain, then he said injured reserve for Bartch, and they are fearing a Lisfranc situation, which is the middle of the foot. Lisfranc sprain, Lisfranc fracture. I know Jimmy Garoppolo was dealing with the Lisfranc fracture at the end of the season in 2022. That's something that can take a while to heal. Because the 49ers are fearing that, they have said that it is likely that Ben Bartch, their starting left guard, will be done for the season. Now, this is a blow. He's their better pass protecting left guard. But remember that San Francisco has been alternating at that position. It's unusual. Bill Walsh actually used to alternate offensive linemen. You don't see it very commonly at all in the modern NFL, but 50-50 between Bartch and Spencer Burford over the course of about the past month. So the full-time job now is slated to go to Spencer Burford, who's having his best season as a 49er. The pass protection still leaves something to be desired with Spencer, but he's been a good run blocker for the 49ers. And, Ben Bartch has suffered a lot of injuries over the course of his NFL career. I think that the 49ers, when he went down with the high ankle sprain in New Orleans early this year, the 49ers said, he's got an injury track record. We've got to make sure that there's not a huge drop off again at this position if he goes down again. So they started cross-training Spencer Burford at left guard. Burford had been on injured reserve as well with a knee issue of his own. But when Burford returned, the stage was set to split duties with Ben Bartch so the 49ers wouldn't find themselves in a massive pickle again at left guard. They had been in one for a while when the rookie seventh-round pick, Connor Colby, had to start. So bad news for Ben Bartch, bad news for the 49ers. The good news, the salvaging news there is that Spencer Burford has been playing a good left guard. His snap load is going to increase from 50% to 100% at that position. Kyle Juszczyk, I knew this yesterday. I didn't want to share it out of respect to Kyle, but he has a fractured rib. That has now been publicly announced, and he may not miss any time. The good news for the 49ers is that they have a bye week. That's going to give Kyle Juszczyk some healing time, and we know that players do play through fractured ribs. Sounds like it's only one broken rib for Kyle Juszczyk. He can take painkillers. He could obviously rest over the course of the next 12 or 13 days before the 49ers next play against the Titans, or the 49ers can determine that they can rest him against Tennessee so that he's ready for that gauntlet at the end of the season. It's Indianapolis on December 22nd, short week to the Bears on December 28th, and then the Seattle Seahawks to round out the regular season. We know that Jauan Jennings played with 5 broken ribs earlier this year. We know that you can put on one of those flak jackets to protect the ribs. That's very likely going to happen with Kyle Juszczyk if he does take the field very soon for San Francisco. And we know that the 49ers want to be as healthy as possible entering that stretch run because those games are going to be tough against the Colts, the Bears, and then the Seattle Seahawks. Some good news for the 49ers. They expect Yetur Gross-Matos and Eddy Piñeiro to both return after the bye week. Yetur today had a very, very good workout for San Francisco. And already for a couple weeks, they've been talking about his return from injured reserve from this hamstring injury after the bye week. So the fact that he hit his markers during the workout today could be a huge boost for the 49ers because he was their best interior pass rusher entering this season. Keon White might be the best interior guy now, but Yetur Gross-Matos, if he's healthy and back out there, there's a good chance he's at the top. Either way, the 49ers stand to benefit big time. I've compared this defensive line to the 2010 San Francisco Giants. I mean, they're finding a way with an island of misfit toys. Or I could also compare it to the old Oakland A's. They're moneyballing their way through to production along this defensive line. And I think people forgot at around the time of the trade deadline that nobody moneyballs a D-line better than Chris Kasarik. And he's been able to find ways to make it work with what the 49ers have. They added two very valuable pieces before the trade deadline in Keon White and Cleveland Farrell. Those guys combined for 3 sacks yesterday. If they can add Yetur Gross-Matos to this mix, this 49ers defensive line will have a chance to bring that pass rush up to league average. And with the way that Saleh is scheming this defense around that pass rush, with the way that they're stopping the run outside of that big drive, the touchdown drive for the Browns yesterday, his defense can deliver above average play even against good offenses. So they might be that one piece away, that one interior rush piece away with Yetur Gross-Matos from having a sustainable pass rush even against some better offensive competition. A fun stat for you is that over the course of the past 3 weeks, the 49ers have had the number 1 defense in all of football. They haven't played the best offenses. It's been the Cardinals, followed by the Panthers. But, I mean, the Panthers had their way with the Rams yesterday. A couple massive fourth down conversions from Bryce Young turned into touchdowns. But it's been the Panthers, and then moving into yesterday was the Cleveland Browns. That was one of the worst offenses in the league. So it's not like the 49ers really had to work for that top-level success that they have had efficiency-wise over the past 3 weeks in Cleveland, but they still have put much better football on tape. And obviously, any reinforcements would be welcome for the 49ers down the stretch run of this season. Eddy Piñeiro, the kicker, also set to come back from his hamstring injury after this 49ers bye week. And Eddy has yet to miss a field goal for the 49ers. Matt Gay has yet to miss a field goal for the 49ers. So the only 49ers kicker to have missed a field goal all season long is Jake Moody. They have missed extra points, but they haven't missed field goals since Eddy Piñeiro took over in week 2. And that 49ers special teams unit ranked as the number 1 unit in all of football. That, I mean, to me, that's the biggest plot twist that you could possibly imagine. The 49ers turning this into an absolute slugfest on special teams this year. Sky Moore, one of the leading returners in the game, both punt and kick returns. Brant Boyer has coordinated this unit to just be such a cohesive outfit when it comes to some of that blocking. I mean, I watched the tape last night. I watched it again this morning, and I'm slowing it down and rewatching that punt return. 5 guys had key do-or-die blocks on that punt return to create this narrow lane that Sky Moore just bolted through. Kyle Shanahan was talking about it. You've got to have a bit of insanity. You've got to be a little crazy to just be able to wind up and hit that hole full speed with utmost courage. But if Saran Neal doesn't restrain himself and execute just, I think, a perfectly dexterous block, they're probably calling clipping on the play. There could have been a block in the back. Luke Gifford had an awesome block on the 66-yard Sky Moore return. We also saw Nick Martin with a big block on that play. Marquise Siegel wasn't really a block, but he obstructed the defender perfectly. I mean, there's a very, very narrow window there, and it closes really quickly. Everyone has to be on their P's and Q's, and it's just amazing to see how many times the 49ers have been on their P's and Q's in the return game, usually ahead of Sky Moore, but it's been Brian Robinson Jr. in the kick return game, helping fuel that 49ers number 1 ranking in special teams, which really has been the ace in the hole for this football team. I want to open up the 49ers roster. First, I want to show you the article up on the San Francisco Standard. We've got grades for the 49ers. I like the headline too. Kyle Shanahan's 49ers are executing a formula that has produced deep playoff runs. They were plus expected points by a lot in all 3 phases of the game against the Cleveland Browns. So that is now 3 straight weeks that the 49ers have played a balanced game, offense, defense, and special teams. Positive efficiency coming from all 3 phases in 3 weeks in a row. Complementary football is no longer a fluke with this team. And the 49ers teams of 2022, 2023, we go back to 2021, that dealt complementary football in all 3 phases, those are the ones that went deep into the playoffs in each of those 3 seasons. 2021 didn't really get the true special teams complement until the postseason, but they certainly got it against the Green Bay Packers with the blocked field goal and the blocked punt in the snow and that ice bowl at Green Bay, and that obviously led to a victory. 2022 and 2023, special teams not quite as strong for the 49ers, but they had such an overpowering offense in 2023 especially. 2022 was more of a balanced offense-defense effort that they were able to push it through all the way to the NFC Championship game in 22 and the Super Bowl in 23. But the big lesson to be taken from that is that in 2023, they weren't a full 3-unit team. Special teams was too big of a liability for San Francisco, and it ended up costing them in the Super Bowl. Somebody today was trying to talk about Brock Purdy, and they were saying, well, if he's so great, if that game against Cleveland was so great, why didn't he do this in the Super Bowl when they played the Chiefs? Brock Purdy actually outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl when the 49ers played Kansas City. It was the special teams that took the majority of the blame and should have taken the majority of the blame for that 49ers loss. There obviously was the punt that hit off of Darrell Luter Jr.'s leg in that Super Bowl, and that was a massive, massive turning point in that game. But on a per play, per snap, per drop back efficiency basis, Brock Purdy was actually better than Patrick Mahomes. And I think that the people need to wrap their heads around that, because the 49ers have a quarterback with a proven record of high-level success, the most efficient quarterback in the game since 2022. And that spearheads their status as contenders. The fact that special teams has gained the 49ers dozens and dozens of expected points already this season, that might be the feather in the cap that the 49ers need to actually take this all the way in 2025. It is not too soon to say that. They are 9-4. They're finding different ways to win every week, and they are dangerous in all three phases. They are not a finished product defensively. I don't think they're a finished product offensively for that matter, but they don't need to be a finished product until this turns into late December against the Colts, and then they have a 92% chance of carrying this into postseason play after that Week 18 game against the Seattle Seahawks in January. So I talk about it in this article up on the San Francisco Standard, the 49ers expected points division, +4 or so on offense, +9 on defense, +4 to 5 on special teams. That was their most balanced performance of the year, and it was the third straight week that the 49ers got that kind of performance in the books. All right, we're going to take a look at the 49ers roster. We can go through all of the news today. We're going to start with adding players to the injury report. So Kyle Juszczyk right here, fullback. We're going to give him the injury shading. I have a feeling that Kyle isn't going to miss any time, and if he does, it will just be the Tennessee game. The thing is, he's so important to this offense. He's really the only fullback on the team. If you don't have Kyle Juszczyk, then you have to use one of the tight ends as a fullback to be able to run the same offense. So that would be either Jake Tonjes or Braden Willis. They've been cross-trained to do that, but it does take a bite out of the 49ers offense whenever Kyle Juszczyk isn't available. Better that he broke his rib this time than what happened in 2017 at Indianapolis early in the season. Kyle Juszczyk broke a transverse process, which is on his back. So you could literally say that he broke his back. And he had a lot going on after that game. He actually had to check into a hospital after the flight to the Bay Area. Ended up missing a few weeks, but back now in action for the 49ers years later, multiple Pro Bowls later, multiple All-Pros later, a couple contracts later. I mean, one of the more underrated players in football, despite the fact that he has been given all these awards, because I just don't think that people realize how valuable Kyle Juszczyk is to this football team. I mean, he's only lining up at an actual standard fullback position, 30 to 40% of the time? He's out at a tight end spot, out in the slot, out wide, like as an actual wide receiver the rest of the time. It is positional adaptability that is truly, truly great that Kyle Juszczyk brings to the table, and it allows the 49ers offense to be that Swiss Army knife. I need to get this back up on the screen because we're moving from Kyle Juszczyk down to Ben Bartch. Bartch is going to be an injured reserve placement. I actually already moved him off of this list. So That's a move I've already made. Bartch, you're going to be looking at Spencer Burford and Connor Colby for the 49ers at that left guard spot with the rookie Colby, who struggled there as a starter earlier this week. Or earlier this year. Connor Colby is now going to be the next in line to take over for Spencer Burford in case he gets hurt. So big loss of Ben Bartch because they had really solidified and insulated that position with both Burford and Bartch. You know, they're rotating that left guard position, and Mike just texted me. He said he thought it was smart because the track record of Ben Bartch and all the injuries he had suffered suggested that he might get hurt again. So rotating Spencer Burford in there, making sure that he developed as a left guard in case that injury to Ben Bartch did happen, which it unfortunately did occur on Sunday, would allow the 49ers to not miss too much of a beat moving forward. I still think that Bartch is their better pass protecting left guard, but Burford has played the guard position in the past. He played left tackle in college at San Antonio. He's capable of mirroring whatever movements he had to bring to the right guard position when he started as a rookie back in 2023. He's capable of bringing that to the left side. He's already done it with some success so far this year. So despite the blow, the 49ers did prepare themselves as well as possible to be insulated from it. When we go back to the roster here, you see Eddy Piñeiro, they did not put him on injured reserve. They expect him back coming off of the bye week. And they also expect Yetur Gross-Matos to be plugged in coming off of injured reserve, coming off the bye week. I'm going to put Ben Bartch on the official IR list down here. We could even center his name. 49ers right now, when they take Bartch off of the 53-man roster, they will have to activate Yetur Gross-Matos and have him take a spot. So I would assume that YGM is going to get Ben Bartch's spot, assuming everything continues going well for Yetur Gross-Matos. They're not quite at the spot where they're going to be able to bring Tatum Bethune back yet. He did not go to injured reserve, but he's still dealing with a high ankle sprain. I would assume at least one more game for Tatum Bethune out for the 49ers, and that might give an opportunity to Eric Kendricks to start against the Tennessee Titans, or at least play enough to give the 49ers a serious audition. The Kendricks plan is to work on his conditioning over the course of this week. Then the 49ers are going to have 4 practices ahead of their game against the Titans. Remember, when you're coming off a bye week, you can have a bonus practice. So the 49ers are going to hold one next Monday. So they'll practice Monday, they'll practice Wednesday, they'll practice Thursday, and they'll practice Friday. Kendricks only had 3 practices. None of them were at full speed this past week because it was a short week with the turnaround from Monday night against the Carolina Panthers to Sunday in Cleveland. So Kendricks was just getting his feet wet for the 49ers, getting acclimated around the building. He hadn't played all season. He didn't have an off season. So he's been staying in shape away from an NFL facility, but still he needs to get back into the groove of things. The 49ers use that as an easy acclimatization period for Eric Kendricks. They're going to build things up for him as far as a conditioning plan goes over the bye week. And then he's going to have not only 3, but 4 practices to show the 49ers what he's got over the course of that Tennessee week. If all goes well, I think that Eric Kendricks, he's right here. He's on the practice squad right now for San Francisco. If all goes well, Eric Kendricks can be the Clelin Ferrell of the linebacking room. And I think that he can provide an upgrade over both Curtis Robinson and Tatum Bethune. Because Eric Kendricks, this is a former All-Pro in 2019. This is somebody who had 138 tackles last year starting at the Mike linebacker position for the Dallas Cowboys. Eric Kendricks can play both the Mike and the Will. He's played both in his career. D. Winters was the 49ers' highest graded player against the Cleveland Browns. I'm sure that made Robert Saleh and Johnny Holland smile. He played a good game. He was flying around to the football. I know that he dealt with some injury issues over the middle part of this season. The play dipped, and it also seemed that not being next to Fred Warner led to some of that negative trend. I think that makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. Playing next to one of the greatest linebackers of all time can be helpful for anyone. But the fact that D. Winters is now acclimating to the new reality without Warner, the fact that it looks like he's healthier than he was in the middle of the season, he graded out as the top 49ers defensive player against the Cleveland Browns. And maybe if he's playing next to Eric Kendricks, just a stabilizing veteran presence, somebody who's been there and done that, maybe that could still get a lot of good play out of D. Winters. 49ers worked out a group of players today, a group of wide receivers and one tight end, but it looks like they're going to need to fill a receiver spot. The 49ers also brought in a quarterback to throw to those receivers. So Javon Baker, Cole Burgess, Kobe Hudson, and tight end Tanner McLaughlin worked out for San Francisco today. The quarterback is Taylor Elgersma, worked out for San Francisco. So whenever you see a group of pass catchers come into the facility, usually they are accompanied by a quarterback who's also working out, and that QB is tasked with throwing the ball to those pass catchers. So 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a QB working out for San Francisco today. Nothing reported for the 49ers on the injury front as far as the wide receiver position goes. Kyle Shanahan talked about the concussion that was suffered by Nick Martin. By the way, we have to put Nick Martin into injury shading up here. He left the game with a concussion. That obviously doesn't affect the receiving room. Bethune-Okwonu already out with the high ankle sprains for the 49ers. Kyle Juszczyk out for San Francisco with the rib injury, but he might be back in time for the next game after the bye week. Of course, Ben Bartch, I already moved him to injured reserve. So the receiver workouts are interesting. Perhaps the 49ers just trying to press the upgrade button on one of their practice squad spots. They've got Malik Turner and Junior Bergen over there. Or the offense might need to be shuffled around a little bit if Kyle Juszczyk does indeed miss some time for San Francisco. But these teams are constantly bringing in talent at positions they think they can strengthen. And maybe Mike will be able to send me some intel on some of these 49ers workouts today. But we will find out. All right, I am ready to answer some questions. Busy 49ers day. What else did Kyle Shanahan talk about? I've got it all in my notes right here. I want to make sure that I covered it all. Bartch, Juszczyk, YGM at Eddy Piñeiro ready to return for the 49ers after the bye week. Oh, there was the Kyle Shanahan, Jauan Jennings appraisal. This was good. Shanahan said that opponents just get offended by how hard and physically Jauan Jennings plays. Jauan has answered this question in a similar way. Shelby Harris yesterday was so wildly upset. And I had a hard time believing it yesterday, just watching Shelby Harris talk about Jauan Jennings. Have a listen to this.
Oh, and I want that known. Like, I see why he got punched in the nuts, because that's some, like, he says some things that you should not say to another man ever. But like, I don't respect it because you say that, then run behind your O-line. That's some real soft shit, and I want that known. I see exactly why they punched in the nuts. I'm surprised nobody punched him in the jaw yet.
So, I mean, that's an NFL defensive tackle who just got very, very emotional, very upset with whatever Jauan Jennings was saying on the field. So, of course, Kyle Shanahan was asked about what Jauan Jennings might have been saying on the field. And Kyle said that he talked to Jauan, but didn't hear that Jauan said anything all too bad. And, you know, when Jauan was asked about this after he did get punched in the balls against the Carolina Panthers, he said that opposing players just take exception to the fact that he's a throwback and he plays so physically. Kyle Shanahan said essentially the same thing today, said that opponents just get offended by how hard and physically Jauan Jennings played. One thing that Kyle Shanahan made sure to mention is one thing he's really good at is not breaking any rules. So, I've always compared Jennings to Tyler Durden from Fight Club. I still remember Rayshon Jenkins in 2021, back when he was at Jacksonville, and Rayshon Jenkins was actually on that Browns defense yesterday. So there's a connection. But do you remember when Jauan Jennings just got on Rayshon Jenkins' nerves to such an extent that Rayshon shoved him after a play, kind of gave him a punch after a play with a helmet on? Obviously, doesn't make any sense. But personal foul penalty. And it helped the 49ers, and they blew out the Jags in that game back in 2021. That was actually the week after they beat the Rams 31-10 on Monday Night Football. So I think back to that, and I believe that might have been the first time ever. It was Jauan Jennings' first season playing. It might have been the first time ever that Jennings drew a personal foul flag from an opposing player. Since then, he's drawn so many. He's drawn suspensions. He's drawn ejections. It is an art form. You can call him a troll if you want, but he is effective, and it's giving the 49ers a competitive advantage. When you see Shelby Harris as upset as he was in that video 30 minutes after the game, well, he must have been absolutely fuming during the game. And the Browns defense, the proof is in the pudding. The Browns defense delivered what was its worst statistical showing of the season. So if Jauan Jennings is getting under the defense's skin and the 49ers are roasting what had been an elite unit entering the game to the tune of what was it, 26 points on the road in windy conditions, well, of course the 49ers like having Jauan Jennings on their team. Of course they like him antagonizing the opposition. Of course Kyle Shanahan is going to defend him. Jauan has figured out some kind of secret code to really pissing people off. And he's one of those guys that you love to have on your team and you hate to play against. You say the same thing about Draymond Green. You probably said the same thing about Dre Greenlaw. Larry Bird was famous for that back in the 70s and the 80s on the basketball court. So fascinating stuff, because we don't know exactly what Jauan Jennings said, but Shelby Harris obviously very, very upset about it, because I have not seen an NFL player that emotional speaking to the media in quite some time. Javon Baker is formerly a fourth-round pick of the New England Patriots. He's working with the 49ers today, working out for the 49ers today, wide receiver. I remember when he was at University of Central Florida. And then the tight end worked out, Tanner McLaughlin, drafted in the 6th round in 2024 by the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, I'm not sure where a potential signing would fit here, if they cut a Junior Bergen or a Malik Turner. I know Malik Turner's used some of his practice squad elevations for the 49ers this year, so maybe the 49ers are looking to bolster the practice squad with somebody that has playing capability. We won't know until they actually make a move, and there's a chance they don't make a move until closer to next week, since they don't practice until next Monday with this ultra late week 14 bye. But all these guys seem like practice squad level talents. And, the 49ers could also just be building their Rolodex, have familiarity with players in case of injuries moving forward into December, because it's lining up to be a December to remember. I can't think of a more epic 3-game stretch in the regular season under Kyle Shanahan than the one that's shaping up right now, with 8-4 Indy, 9-3 Chicago, and then the season finale against 9-3 Seattle. Speaking of Chicago, I couldn't believe this when I read it today. Caleb Williams has the lowest completion percentage in the league. He hadn't been very good throwing the football this year, but the Bears are still in the number 1 spot in the entire NFC. Ben Johnson, the Chicago Bears coach, today was quoted as saying, "We're winning in spite of our passing game, not because of it." Can you believe that? He actually said that. Imagine if Kyle Shanahan ever said, "We're winning in spite of our passing game, not because of it." All of 49ers social media would burn down if he said something like that. The simple translation is, Caleb Williams is not very good. That's what his coach, Ben Johnson, said today. And it's true. He's last in the league in completion percentage. He hasn't been an efficient quarterback at all. But the Bears are still winning. They're very opportunistic on defense. They've got 26 takeaways already in this season, and they ran for nearly 300 yards against the Philadelphia Eagles, who had been the number 3 run defense in all of football. So one of those things that it's hard to believe that the Bears have been able to win this many games and rise up to, at least right now, the number 1 seed in the NFL. But they haven't beaten too many great teams. The best team that they won against was the Philadelphia Eagles. That happened just on Friday. They're going to be set for a showdown with the 49ers. And one of the crazy twists that's potentially possible before that game is that if the Rams lose one more time, if the Seahawks lose one more time, and if there's one more team that has to lose one more time before that game, if all that happens and the 49ers and the Bears both win out, that game on December 28th at Levi's is going to be for the number 1 seed in the entire NFC. Just madness, right? I mean, to think that the 49ers and the Bears are going to have a chance to grab control of the 1 seed with just 1 week left in the entire regular season. For the Bears, it's crazy because Caleb Williams isn't very good and they've been historically bad here over the past couple decades. For the 49ers, it's wild because they've lost what seems to be the majority of their roster to injured reserve at certain parts of this season. For those two teams that currently be in the position that they're in right now, just a couple domino falls away from playing for the 1 seed on December 28th. The NFL, I mean, it is a hell of a theater for entertainment, man. It really is. It really is. Jim Harbaugh said that Trey Lance will get reps with the first team in goal line scenarios this week, so he's prepared if the Chargers need him against the Eagles. There's a really, really good slate on Sunday. Let's go through some of the games that are coming up because the 49ers aren't going to be playing. They're going to be able to sit back and watch. But I do know that San Diego and Philadelphia, and as you know, I always call the Chargers San Diego. I refuse to call them LA. That is going to be one of the promising games coming up this week. I spied that on the schedule a little bit earlier. That's going to be the Monday night game. That's going to cap it all off for this weekend. So we got Cowboys and Lions. That's the Thursday night game. That is juicy. I like that with the way that Dallas is surging and the Lions trying to stop a slide now. We got the Seahawks and the Falcons. It's interesting because the Seahawks are surging. They're big favorites, though, against Atlanta. That's a team that has really, really struggled. They're down to 4-8 now. The 49ers really began the downturn of the Atlanta Falcons. The week after they beat the Bills at home, the Falcons lost to the 49ers, and it has been a rough stretch ever since. It's the Bengals and the Bills. Not really interested in that, although Joe Burrow is back. So we'll watch with bated breath as the Bengals and the Bills play on Sunday in Buffalo. The Titans and the Browns, that's a disgusting game. I will not be paying any attention to that. Maybe just to see what the Titans might be bringing to the table when they come to Levi's the next week. The Commanders and the Vikings, that does not pique my interest at all. The Dolphins and the Jets, actually, this is not a good slate at all. I thought it was going to be better when I saw a couple of those games. Dolphins and the Jets, that's trash. Saints and Tampa Bay, well, New Orleans isn't good. They're 2-10. Be interested to see Baker Mayfield and the Bucs to see if they can stabilize things. They're 7-5. Indianapolis and Jacksonville. Jacksonville's actually in first place now in the AFC South. They have the tiebreaker over Indy as we speak, but the Colts have something to say about that. A couple 8-4 teams. Steelers and the Ravens, a couple 6-6 teams. That AFC North game, that also doesn't really excite me. Broncos and Raiders. It was close the last time they played, but it was not exciting. I do not expect it to be close this time, although the Broncos seem to have a tough time beating anybody by more than 3 or 4 points. The Bears and the Packers. All right, now we're cooking with gas. That's something that I'd be interested in watching. Green Bay against Chicago, and they played 2 times over the course of 3 weeks. Then it's the Rams and the Cardinals. Not exciting at all unless Matthew Stafford turns this into another interception fest. And the Texans and the Chiefs with Kansas City playing for their season. They are 6-6 at this point. The Texans are 7-5. So that actually low-key watchable. Monday Night Football game. Really, really good Texans defense against the Chiefs, who have been playing good offense this year, but have not won at the margins the way that they did in 2024. So they find themselves at 6-6. Last two games for the 49ers, 9 points allowed and 8 points allowed. 17 points total allowed for the 49ers over the past 2 weeks. It's the first time since 2019 that the 49ers have gone back-to-back games allowing 10 points or fewer in both of those games. That stat was hard for me to believe. They had a really good defense in 2022. They had a shutout in 2022 against the Saints at home, but they were unable to do it in that season. Some Rams injuries. Kyron Williams left Sunday's game with an ankle issue, and Devontae Adams had hamstring soreness, but neither injury is considered serious. Nothing that we expect to restrict guys from being available this week. Sean McVay said we might limit some guys in practice once we see how they come in Tuesday, but nothing that we expect to affect game statuses for Arizona. One hidden benefit of the 49ers bye week that may not be so hidden after this weekend to play is that the 49ers can't have anybody hurt this week. They don't play a game. And you will watch the rest of the league. There's not going to be a 0% injury rate across the rest of the league. And any injury that happens now threatens to affect the team not only for the postseason, but also for the stretch run. And we know how critical that stretch run is going to be. I mean, there's a chance that exiting the week 15, the next time the 49ers play, there's a chance that the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Rams are tied at 10-4 atop the NFC West. And if the Rams and the Seahawks suffer any damage during their games this weekend, they're not going to be at full strength entering the final three. And the 49ers, I mean, they're obviously not going to return to full strength this season. Bosa, Fred Warner, Michael Williams, those guys are out. But the 49ers are the healthiest they've been in quite some time. Despite the injuries that I read off to you at the start of this show, they're going to have a chance to turn the corner as a football team over this bye week and be probably at their best health state since week 6, since Fred Warner went down. And they've had a chance to acclimate to the losses of some of these superstars. They're playing their best football of the season right now for a reason, and that's because they're growing together as a team. Kyle Shanahan has done a hell of a job coaching this team up. The front office has done a hell of a job making sure that the appropriate holes are plugged. Complementary football is a hell of a drug. The 49ers are partaking, and they've got the Tennessee Titans coming up in week 15, leaving this bye week. We also have Monday Night Football tonight. Not too exciting of a game. It's a New England battle. I guess New York's not technically in New England, but New England, I mean, it's a Northeastern battle. It's an Amtrak Acela battle, if you will. The Patriots are 10-2, trying to become the first 11-win team in the NFL this year. Jackson Dart is coming back from his concussion. He's going to be starting for the New York Giants. So an AFC East, NFC East matchup. This right here, I need to put this up on the screen. I've been talking so much over the course of the last 24 hours about pressure to sack ratio. This is one of the most important stats that you can look at when you're trying to determine if a quarterback is able to elevate the system in which he's operating. We'll take a look at this right here. This is pressure to sack ratio. NFL leaders. Look at the gap between Brock Purdy, who's got the best figure in the entire NFL, and the rest of the field. Dak Prescott is number 2. Dak Prescott is known as being very, very good at escaping pressure, making sure it doesn't become a sack. And remember, sacks are a quarterback stat. Purdy is at 5.8%. Prescott is number 2 at 9.7%. Darnold has been really good escaping. And, escaping doesn't just mean running away. It means moving in the pocket, adjusting your body. And it also means getting rid of the football. Quick release. Good progression, good scan, quick release. Purdy at 5.8%. That is a downright elite number. Mac Jones, for comparison, does not have a terrible pressure to sack ratio. He gets rid of the ball fairly quickly, but it's 17.9%. Way, way worse than what Brock Purdy has been able to put up this season. That is an elite number. That's one of the best numbers we've ever seen. We see it on tape. It was in practice against the Browns yesterday. We saw how frustrated Myles Garrett was with Brock Purdy. I mean, that's one of my favorite clips, actually, watching Myles Garrett indirectly reference the Brock Purdy pressure to sack ratio.
I feel like there were a lot of ops. Well, there seemed like a lot of ops, with how close it was. But, he likes getting out on time, or, he sees me and credit to him, he also avoided the rush pretty well, too. So him getting the ball out on time, them having a solid unit as well, chipping, those kind of things. They were doing what they do best.
It looks like you said something to him one time when you got close. What did you? Can you share that with us?
It was something like, just give me another one.
Just give me another one. What a line from Myles Garrett. And Brock Purdy did not oblige him. Mike said that he watched the tape and tallied it. I watched the tape and I didn't tally it, but the ballpark number seems right. Mike said that he counted 5 times the Browns should have sacked Purdy, yet they only had 1. Myles Garrett got to him once. And Myles Garrett has what, like 18 or 19 sacks now on the season? The Browns have 43 on the season. Only one of those came against the 49ers and Brock Purdy. And we can just go back and back to this every single time. That is a hell of a pressure to sack ratio. And it underscores why Brock Purdy is one of the elite quarterbacks in this league. I mean, that is just a special number. And I'm not really sure that people are fully grasping how impressive it is. Garrett's trying to get to 25 sacks this season, and Brock Purdy did not oblige him. If Mac Jones had been the quarterback yesterday, Garrett might be very close to 25 sacks already based on what we saw against the Houston Texans. But Purdy is just really, really tough to bring down. Garrett has 25, the number 25 written on his wrist as a sack goal for the season. So, yeah, he's literally trying to get there. I thought that Mike was just speculating, but Mike is serious. I've got photo evidence of this. Take a look at what Myles Garrett has written on his wrist. Number 25. I could even zoom in on it a little bit if you guys want to see. There it is, 25, right wrist, Myles Garrett. Very cool. Not so great for Myles Garrett yesterday. He's going to have to get more than 1 a game to get there because he's nearing 20. Mike said he's projected to hit 28, but that if 1 a game won't do it, obviously. He's going to have to continue at the pace, the collective pace of the entire season to get there. The way that Purdy handled that yesterday, I think Brock Purdy's stock should be as high as ever. Higher than 2023, higher than 2022. Hell, in 2023, he had more weapons. And yes, he did put the 49ers in position to win that game against the Browns, but it still would have been a squeak-by win. And I get that it was a little wet in 2023. The precipitation held off yesterday. The wind certainly didn't hold off. That, to me, was when you consider the elements, when you consider the defense, when you consider Myles Garrett trying to go for 25 sacks on the season, when you consider all of those things, the way that Brock Purdy shrugged that off and just stood and delivered, he wasn't afraid to throw the ball away. He had 6 or 7 throwaways in that game yesterday. That, to me, was Brock Purdy's most impressive game as a 49er. And Kyle Shanahan was asked about this today, and he didn't say that it was Purdy's most impressive game, not because it was a bad game, not because it wasn't the top one. Shanahan didn't say that. He said there's just been so many really impressive games for Purdy, right? And he's done it at the playoff level. He's outplayed Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl. He's been the most efficient quarterback in the NFL ever since joining the league in 2022. So Kyle Shanahan almost just thinks that it'd be unfair to assign this random Sunday, November 30th, against Cleveland as Brock Purdy's finest hour. That's fair, but just given a lot of the narratives going around, given the stupidity of some of the takes that we had heard about Brock Purdy coming off the 3 interceptions against Carolina, I thought what he did yesterday against the Browns was mighty, mighty impressive. Caleb Williams would become the first QB to rank last in the NFL in completion percentage and have his team earn the number 1 seed since seeding began in 1975, if the season ended today. The last QB to even rank bottom 5 on the number 1 seed was Rex Grossman, who led the Bears to the Super Bowl in 2006. That was Bears Colts, right? That was the Super Bowl that the Colts won. Crazy. Well, the 49ers get to play Caleb Williams, and that's coming up very, very soon on December 28th at the end of this month. Time seems to really be flying. Those of you who joined a little bit late, the news today is Ben Bartch has suffered a foot sprain that's likely going to end his season. They're fearing a Lisfranc sprain that's right in the middle of the foot, which would require surgery. Would put Ben Bartch on injured reserve for the second time this year. Spencer Burford's job now at left guard. Broken rib for Kyle Juszczyk, but he may not miss any time. They're going to reevaluate him after this bye week. Yetur Gross-Matos and Eddy Piñeiro both expected back for the 49ers coming off of this bye week. That's big, big news for the 49ers getting their top interior pass rusher back. This right here is up on the San Francisco Standard. The best way that you can support me, support this channel, is to sign up for the Standard. The article is linked in the description. These are grades for the 49ers. Brock Purdy, he got an A for this game. He was awesome. A lot of A's for the 49ers. Some B pluses in there. The worst grade was actually for the offensive line. I gave him a C plus. They did allow a lot of pressure, 58% pressure rate, but Purdy shrugged it off. 49ers offense found a way to get it done against that Cleveland defense. So if you want the full update on what San Francisco did offensively and defensively and on special teams, which has been epically good for the 49ers this year, go and sign up for the San Francisco Standard. The 49ers are 9-4. I think that they have the goods and they have the team mojo. They've got the 2010 Giants feel. I think they have what it's going to take to make things really interesting down the back half of December and into January. Nobody's guaranteeing a Super Bowl win, but the 49ers have grown and evolved as a team, pulling weight from all corners of this roster in all 3 phases of the game to make a serious, serious run into January. Now, whether or not things will line up injury-wise and whether or not they're going to be in position to actually be able to do that remains to be seen. There's a lot of work still in front of the 49ers, but what we've seen over the course of the first 13 games of this season has been promising, to say the least. They're moving into that upper right quadrant, slowly but surely. Maybe they don't get all the way to the upper right. Maybe they just follow the arrow to where I said would be acceptable team tier-wise as far as a second-tier team that can compete with the other 7 or 8 tier 2 teams. When you've got a quarterback as good as Brock Purdy, you're in play if you can get it to that point. If you can just find acceptable defensive play. And the 49ers have definitely been enjoying that over the course of the past 3 weeks. Any questions? This does seem like a great team. Mr. Irrelevant says, go get some help for the kids on defense. Well, they did that with Eric Kendricks. I'm not sure who you want on this team right now that would improve a position that the 49ers already have with a healthy younger player. I think Kendricks was a good stab at that, and we'll see how it works out for the 49ers because of the injuries at linebacker. But it's not going to be easy to find players who are automatically going to improve San Francisco at this juncture of the season. But if they do run into those possibilities, I'm sure they will explore them. Harry says, some of my colleagues said Purdy can't drive the ball. Well, my colleagues don't know what they're watching. If you say that Purdy can't drive the ball after what we watched yesterday, he threw into 40-mile-an-hour wind and he completed a deep pass to George Kittle. Even more impressive was the out to Ricky Pearsall. It was opposite hash across the field. I mean, I think people, when they're watching tape, need to realize that the football field is 53 yards wide. And that was into the wind as well. There was only one quarterback on the field yesterday who couldn't drive the ball. His name was not Brock Purdy. His name was Shedeur Sanders. Anytime Shedeur was thrown into the wind, it turned into a duck downfield. When Purdy was thrown into the wind, that ball knifed its way downfield. I mean, he threw an absolute rope to not only just to Ricky Pearsall on the out, but also to Jauan Jennings on the out pattern. I mean, Purdy's arm talent is fine. And anybody who says it's not, just point blank, is living in fantasy land, does not know what they're watching. You do not get to number one efficiency in the NFL for a total of what? It's 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. It's now been 4 seasons of data that has Brock Purdy at the very top of NFL efficiency. And you don't get there if the arm talent is inadequate. Mike says I got to show this video, so I'm going to show a video. I think it might support the point. Here's Purdy. Yeah, this is into 40-mile-an-hour wind. That is an absolute rope to George Kittle. One more time. We'll have this up on the screen. Like, the fans aren't even filling the upper deck because they're too cold. Yet this throw is like a hot knife through butter. That is a pass from Brock Purdy. And then George Kittle, he tried to call timeout. They didn't give it to him until 2 or 3 seconds late, which wasn't good because it cost the 49ers a chance to score a touchdown. The only time they failed in the red zone yesterday to score a touchdown was because the officials didn't give George Kittle the timeout call until 4 seconds remained. He was trying to call timeout at 7 seconds, which would have given Purdy a chance at the end zone. Other than that, the 49ers were 3 of 3 in the red zone. They were 10 of 16 on third down against a really, really good Cleveland Browns defense. That was a masterclass that we saw from Brock Purdy. And yes, I mean, that was the throw. I wish that we also had one like this, but from the Ricky Pearsall or Jauan Jennings out patterns, because those were fantastic. I mean, he threw those on even more of a rope than he threw the George Kittle one. The Kittle one was a good 35 yards downfield, so obviously it wasn't going to be in a total line to George Kittle. The ones to Pearsall and Jennings, though, those were absolute bullets. And to confirm our suspicions, yes, George Kittle did call timeout. You could see him motioning for the timeout with 8 seconds to go. That's George calling timeout. I could zoom a little bit. Oh, I zoomed too far in. Maybe we could zoom in this way on George Kittle. You could see the timeout gesture. For whatever reason, the officials didn't give it to him. The 49ers should have had enough time to throw it into the end zone, but they didn't. So unfortunate for San Francisco. They still win the game by 18 points. Yes, Eddy Piñeiro is back after this week. That's what the 49ers expect, at least. And he's coming off of a mild hamstring injury. It's not an overly serious hamstring injury. So I think that the estimate there is going to end up being correct. All right, guys, I'm hungry. I've got to get going. That's your news for today. Your homework is to sign up for the San Francisco Standard. Check out the article. It's up on the screen. We'll put the link into the comments section. Best 49ers coverage there is. Everybody enjoy Monday Night Football. If you want another live after the game, you can let me know. Talk to you soon.